$80 million a day. Kids not going to school. As a government, you have to restore order and stability. And so here's how I feel. While the protesters are taking action, and certainly that's frustrating, the government is enabling the action. Well, climate protesters have been in the news a lot recently, from gluing their hands to famous works of art to defacing statues. Now, one of the common things that they continue to do is block highways. This has become the new big way to protest is you block highways. And often this has devastating effects. We have seen where highways are blocked and ambulances can't get through and someone's life is on the line. They're causing mayhem for businesses, including small businesses. And a lot of it is like, what are you actually doing? You know, like if I glue my hand to a Monet, I am saving the planet.
Stop the cap.
It's just not true. You're getting attention, but you're also making people despise you, right? And blocking traffic is incredibly frustrating. And we've begun to see people grow more and more frustrated. We've seen video of people just driving straight through these things, and really no one has been seriously injured at this point. But what happened this week absolutely shocked the world when Kenneth Darlington stepped out of his car and shot and killed two of the protesters who were blocking the highway in Panama. Let's look at that story. American lawyer, 77, busted in Panama after gunning down two eco-protesters blocking highway in shocking video. We're not going to look at the video because it is shocking and it's violent. An elderly American has been arrested after a gunman was caught on camera walking up to environmental protesters blocking a Panamanian highway Tuesday and blasting two of them to death. Wow, that is descriptive. Disturbing footage showed a man with gray hair and glasses casually approaching the blockade on the Pan American Highway and waving his finger while arguing with the demonstrators before pulling out a gun and opening fire. Other footage showed people standing around bodies in the road in the sector west of Panama City, as well as the gunman being cuffed and led to a squad car. Police later shared a photo of the suspect handcuffed to a pipe. He was identified as Kenneth Darlington, 77 years old, a lawyer and professor who holds dual citizenship in the U.S. and Panama. One of the shot protesters died at the scene, while the second was pronounced dead at a local hospital. And here is the picture that set the internet absolutely on fire. This is a crazy image, specifically because his face is not enraged. He's not foaming at the mouth. He's not having some psychotic episode. He is just literally fed up and took the ultimate act of vengeance. How exactly should we think about this? I want to get down to what these protests were causing. This is the third week of protests over a large mining contract. The roadblocks have caused up to $80 million in daily losses to businesses and have shuttered schools nationwide for more than a week. So kids have not been able to go to school in a week, $80 million in damages, and this guy has had enough. And he steps out and he shoots and kills two of these people. And this is not a crazy guy. This is a guy who knows better. He's a lawyer and a professor. Like, he knows the ramifications of what he is getting ready to do. And he steps out and pretty calmly just shoots and kills two people. Now, what I want to focus on is the reaction to this, because a lot of people who are openly labeling themselves as Christians, but also happen to be usually pretty conservative political commentators, have really praised this. And if they haven't outright just like said how awesome this is, then they have made really passive jokes to kind of say like, this is what you get. You know, you block a road long enough and someone might freaking bust a cap in you, and that's just what you get. And so I just want to say, as a baseline for people who claim the name Christ, it is simply un-Christ-like to celebrate murder, period. This shouldn't be controversial. It is simply un-Christ-like to celebrate murder.
Wow.
And that's like the bottom starting line for how we handle this. You can think that this is so frustrating and something needs to be done about it, but celebrating murder is never Christ-like. And so if you disagree with that and you can actually make a biblical case for that, blow me up in the comments, set me straight. My baseline is it's un-Christ-like to celebrate someone's murder. Not only is this a disproportionate response, the other problem I have is the response is aimed at the wrong people. In Proverbs 29, it says, by justice, a king gives a country stability, but those who are greedy for bribes tear it down. Now we know this. Our politicians, like everywhere, are greedy for bribes. Our politicians are not creating stability as representatives of the people, and they are certainly not creating stability as agents of God. They're owned by the lobbyist. They're looking for their own vested interest. And when it comes to the climate initiatives that people have bought wholesale, this is the new world religion, and it is certainly the religion of the West. And so to step on the toes of the climate protesters is to step on the toes of the new major Western religion. And so while it isn't a direct bribe, there is great incentive to not do your job in controlling these protesters and opening your highways back up, because you have now set yourself against what is the dominant religion force, which is the worship of Mother Gaia, Mother Earth, and the protection of her from the scourge of the earth, which is, of course, humanity and all of our pollution. And we should be taking care of the world. And I have a lot of videos on this in podcasts in the past. But seeing this as the new religion is a replacement for Christianity in large part, because what you can't get rid of is the religious impulse that lies at the core of all people in all places. And so now in the West, we worship the world and we worship the sun, or I guess the sun is kind of the devil, right? And the sky and the moon and the earth and the trees. And so we're going to do coal mining, and that's, the worst thing ever. And maybe they shouldn't be doing coal mining, but now $80 million a day. Kids not going to school. As a government, you have to restore order and stability. And so here's how I feel. While the protesters are taking action, and certainly that's frustrating, the government is enabling the action. While the protesters are taking action, the government is enabling the action. And you have to find the source of issues if you want to fix issues in a corporate environment or any kind of organization, including the organization that I lead. What we're always trying to establish are clear lines of accountability. And when there is an expectation gap inside the organization, what we try to do is trace that line of accountability back. And so if there were clear expectations set and clear timelines set and everyone was resourced appropriately and they didn't get their work done, then that's on them. But if they have a leader who never clearly communicated and didn't write anything down and didn't set any timelines and didn't resource them appropriately, then it isn't going to be the individual contributor who ends up having some kind of consequence. It's going to be their upline. It's going to be the leader who is enabling the poor performance. And you have countries who are allowing their citizens to completely break down the stability of that society, and they're not stepping in and doing anything. This is the third week of protests, a whole week of kids who are being out of school, which y'all remember COVID, when all of a sudden your kids are just at your table all day, every day, and you can't get any work done. It's hugely destabilizing, and it is a just king who gives a country stability, and justice is not being served. And so listen, we can have a nuanced take on this. We never celebrate murder. Also, when governments fail to do their job, it creates a recipe for vigilantism. It just happens. And what's happened here is a vigilante action that is disproportionate in force. There's another example that I have slightly different feelings on, which is what's going on in Haiti. In Haiti, they have a corrupt government. Right now, they have basically not even a functioning government, and the entire island is being run by the gangs. And the gangs are murdering and kidnapping and raping everyone they can get their hands on. And the only way for you to be protected from the gangs is for you to be a snitch and help them kidnap someone else to hold them for ransom. And Haiti went to like every nation in the UN and didn't get any help from anyone. And they're getting no help from their own government and from their own military police force. And so they've begun taking things into their own hands for their own protection. And you don't want a destabilized situation where vigilantes have to step in. But the difference is a difference in type, and it's a difference in the match of proportion. they are being murdered. And so now they are stepping up in protection of themselves and their family. And yes, the citizens of Haiti, when necessary, are taking the lives of the gang members. It's a terrible situation, but the force being used by both sides is proportional. And what you would hope for and pray for is the stabilization at the level of leadership. While the protesters take action, the government enables action. Jesus said in Luke, from everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded. And from the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked. And so how do you approach this if the problem is actually at the top? In scripture, there's a long prophetic tradition of forcing leadership to feel the weight of how they govern. And the action should not be taken against the individual protesters as much as it should be against the government itself. And the counter protests should be aimed at the government and at the leadership who is allowing these kinds of destabilizing protests to take place. It goes beyond the level of protest when you shut schools down for a week, when innocent people are now being hampered, when businesses are losing so much money that they could have to shut their doors forever. That goes beyond the level of protest, and that requires government intervention. And so you see Moses coming to the Pharaoh in Egypt, and God sends plague after plague after plague, and we are going to make you uncomfortable enough until you do the right thing. We see the prophet Nathan coming to David after his affair with Bathsheba and confronting him and making him feel the full weight of what he actually did. We see Elijah causing a drought upon Israel until the kings feel the full weight of what they are causing with this spiritual drought by feeling it in a real, actual physical drought. This is part of our tradition, is letting people know you're going to have to deal with this, and you're going to have to deal with us, and you're going to have to hear from us. And it's amazing when pressure is put on governments by a large enough force peacefully, how quickly they can begin to make things right. And if they refuse, then you have to leverage the power of the vote, if you have it in your country, to get people into power who will rule justly and who will establish stability. If you enjoyed this clip, make sure you check out the full podcast and subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with all new content. You can also support the channel at patreon.com/Clayton Tyner. Link is in the description below.